donation centers, power restoration, and trash service from Buncombe County Manager Avril Pinder. We will hear from Tom Hardy with the Metropolitan Sewerage District of Buncombe County, Marianne Tierney with FEMA, and Dr. Richard Zen from Via Health. As our neighbors in Florida brace for Hurricane Milton, we hope for their safety and well-being during what will be an incredibly challenging time. We also want to reassure our North Carolina community that the support and resources allocated to North Carolina will remain here to assist with our needs. Florida's residents are in our hearts, and we encourage you to follow the guidance from your local emergency officials to protect yourself and your loved ones during this storm. Now we'll turn it over to County Manager Avril Pinder.
Thanks, Lillian. Good morning. Due to a road closure, the King Creek Water Distribution Site is closing effective immediately. Another water distribution site will be open tomorrow at a location to be announced. Water distribution sites are available at Estes Elementary, Sand Hill Elementary please enter via the Acton Circle entrance, North Windy Ridge Intermediate, Fairview Elementary, Black Mountain Ingalls, Lester Elementary, Pat Square Park, Asheville Middle, Linwood Crump Shiloh Community Center, Lucy Herring Elementary School, and Oakley Elementary. The generosity that we have seen from the community during Hurricane Helene has been uplifting. Your donations provide essential supplies for those in need. We continue to welcome your donations at these locations, which includes 2 new sites: 1298 Patton Avenue in West Asheville. That is 1298 Patton Avenue in West Asheville. Arden Presbyterian Church. That's on Hendersonville Road in Asheville. Harrow's Cherokee Center, 87 Haywood Street. That's going to be at the front door between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., 7 days a week. Beloved, 32 Old Charlotte Highway, and 6 Commerce Way in Arden. If you have donations, equipment, or other questions about specific needs, please email Helene donations@buncombecounty.org. Again, for donations, that is Helene donations@buncombecounty.org. If you're able, the most impactful way for you to support the recovery effort at this time is through monetary donations to recognize disaster relief organizations. Visit buncombeready.org to learn more. Nonprofits, community partners, and schools can now request supplies for emergency outreach work. If you would like to pick up supplies from the distribution center at 6 Commerce Way in Asheville to stock your site, please visit United Way ABC. That is the Asheville Buncombe United Way. So unitedwayabc.org, and fill out the request supplies form. If you cannot fill out this form online, call the volunteer team at 828-393-5628. You can visit unitedwayabc.org or call 828-393-5628 to request supplies. If you cannot call in advance, you can go to 6 Commerce Way in Arden from noon to 4 p.m. and fill out a paper version of the form. That is 6 Commerce Way from noon until 4 p.m. and fill out the paper version of the form to get supplies. For people who are already receiving food assistance, the state has loaded 70% on your SNAP or EBT card, and that is for the September month benefit. That happened on October 6th. So on October 6th, the state loaded 70% of your September monthly benefit. This is a replacement for the food lost due to the power outages. Remember, you can use these cards for hot purchases as well. Duke Energy has released a public website detailing locations still without power in Western North Carolina. On the map, you will see communities highlighted in yellow or red. Yellow means the location has significant damage, but can be repaired. Red shows homes, businesses, or meters that no longer exist. Parts of the grid or broader infrastructure has been destroyed, or areas where assessments are ongoing. As of 9 a.m. today, there are 58,000 customers without power, so we are seeing some improvement there. Wadesboro locations change day by day. Today, Wadesboro is operating a bag trash drop-off. Today, Tuesday, October 8th, at the Anchor AB Tech campus, located at 1459 Sand Hill Road in Candler. That is open until 4:30 p.m. today. And that is only available today for the drop-off sites. This is for bag household trash only. Remember, no storm debris. Wadesboro is running routes to the extent possible in the Anchor Candler area for a trip normally for your Tuesday customers. For tomorrow, Wednesday, October 9th, Wadesboro will run the normal routes for household trash to accessible locations to the extent possible again. And Wednesday route is Swannanoa. But we know this area will be very difficult to access. So Wadesboro will also have trucks located at the Charles Bell Elementary School, which is located at 90 Maple Spring Road in Asheville, and Owen Pool at 117 Stone Drive in Swannanoa. This is for residents to drop off household trash, not storm debris. We will announce storm debris sites later where we will come through and pick up your storm debris. But right now, this is just dealing with the household trash. These drop-off points are for Wednesday only from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And the Wednesday drop-off sites again are Charles Bell Elementary School at 90 Maple Spring Road and Owen Park, and the Owen Pool at 117 Stone Drive in Swannanoa. Please note that recycling services are temporarily suspended. We are planning to open the Hominy Creek Transfer Station on Wednesday, tomorrow, October 9th, to residential bag trash only. There will be no charge for Buncombe County residents who bring bag trash to the transfer station. The bag trash fee waiver is temporary. We do not have payment processing equipment in place, and when that comes in place, the fees is temporarily until then. There will be no commercial vehicles allowed to dump at the transfer station at this time. This is for household residents to bring their bag trash right now. Commercial and large vehicles should use the county landfill and not the transfer station. Please take caution while using access roads to the transfer station at Hominy Creek. There is still some dirt and silt along the edges of the roadway. Hours at the transfer station will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. The landfill is open this week from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., extended hours, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Lillian Govas to introduce our next speaker.
Our next speaker will be Tom Hardy, General Manager of the Metropolitan Sewerage District of Buncombe County, joining us via Zoom.
Good morning. I'm Tom Hardy, General Manager, Metropolitan Sewerage District, or as most people refer to it, MSD. MSD collects and treats the wastewater or sewerage for the region. As far as an update, the plant has been operating and treating the whole time throughout the storm. We had to use our backup generators immediately after the storm, but are now on utility power. The plant was high and did not flood. We typically run at about 20 million gallons a day, where for several days we were pushing 80 million gallons a day. All our major lines are working. We call those interceptors, the larger lines, and all 40 of our pump stations have gotten back online, and several of them are on backup power, and we're ferrying fuel to their generators at this point. There'll be some needed repairs on electrical panels and that sort of thing. But we continue to assess the rest of our 1,100 miles of sewer lines in the region for any damage. Now, I want to emphasize people can flush and use the sewers. They are operating. You should check your own plumbing lines for damage, for falling trees out in your yard and that sort of thing. But please use the sewers if you have water. MSD crews assisted Woodfin Water by building a road to their treatment plant, and we fixed some leaks on their interceptor. Water's now currently filling up the system, and Woodfin Water folks are flushing and looking for leaks. As a result of that, starting this morning, MSD opened up the admin building for business on Riverside Drive, and we're open to the public. We have internet and outgoing call capability, but are currently using a cell phone for emergency incoming call. And that number I'd like to give you. It's 828-768-0540. And that is if you have a sewer emergency of some sort, please call that number. I'll say it again, 828-768-0540. As you know, most of the sewer lines run parallel to streams and rivers. MSD crews got out immediately after the waters receded and replaced all our aerial crossings, which was quite a task. There's still a lot of work to reestablish areas that have been eroded where the streams have shifted. And finally, I want to give a shout out to the Union County utility folks who sent a few crews up here to give our guys some relief from the round-the-clock work they had done for the last 8 days. So that they could attend to their families and the damage that they've received at their home. That is my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And Tom will remain on the line for questions at the end of this community update. Next up, we will hear from Marianne Tierney with FEMA.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Marianne Tierney. I'm the National IMAT team lead here stationed in Buncombe County. I want to provide some updates on our operations. First, we are working alongside our emergency management partners with the important life safety mission, which I talked about the other day. We continue to have active search and rescue throughout the county. So I encourage you to please be mindful of first responders as they're working on the side of the road to conduct search and rescue. For those that are safe and able, I encourage you to contact your insurance agent and to register for FEMA assistance. You can register for FEMA assistance by calling 800-621-FEMA or going to disasterassistance.gov. If you're not able to register for assistance, we have disaster survivor assistance teams throughout the county. I'm going to provide a couple of locations. We'll also have a sheet available offline that we can email to reporters as needed. The first place is at Black Mountain, 550 Highway 9. The AB Tech shelter located at the AB Tech Conference Center. We're between the conference center and the parking deck. We're also going to be in Pack Square Park today. We'll be in the community of Emma with Spanish-speaking individuals who can help folks register along Emma Street. We'll also be at the New Bridge Baptist Church at 199 Elkwood Avenue in Asheville, the laundry use trailer at the Basilica of St. Lawrence at 97 Haywood Street, and the Walmart at 60 Airport Road. To date, across the state of North Carolina, FEMA has approved 28,000 applications for assistance for over $37 million. And in the county, we have approved 14,500 applications for about $15.9 million. The next thing I want to talk about is the fact that this assistance is a grant. It is not a loan, and you will not be expected to pay it back. So please register for assistance. We have a variety of assistance options available, including serious needs assistance, which provides an infusion of cash to help you with your immediate needs, displacement assistance, and eventually housing assistance and rental assistance. I also want to talk about crisis counseling. This was a very traumatic event for the community, both in terms of physical devastation, but also emotional and mental health devastation. And I recognize that, as does everybody else at FEMA. And so crisis counseling services are available. You can call 1-800-985-5990 or visit disasterdistress.samhsa.gov. This is an important resource that's available to you 24/7, and I encourage you to reach out if you're having mental health challenges. HHS has also activated the Emergency Prescription Assistance Program for North Carolina to aid uninsured residents in helping replacing prescription medicine for certain prescriptions or for medical equipment lost or damaged in Hurricane Helene. Through this federally managed program, uninsured residents can receive a free 30-day supply of certain prescription medications at any EPAP participating pharmacy, which can be renewed every 30 days. The program also pays for the replacement of some types of durable medical equipment and supplies, such as canes, crutches, walkers, wheelchairs, blood surge meters, and blood sugar test strips for diabetics. Vaccinations provided by retail pharmacies also may be covered by EPAP. So that concludes my remarks. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. And finally, we'll hear from Dr. Richardson, who is with VIA. He is the Chief Medical Officer. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Marianne, for calling attention to those resources. I'm Dr. Rick Zen. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at VIA, and I'm a psychiatrist. And for those who don't know, VIA is a public managed care organization that helps individuals with needs related to mental health, substance use disorders, intellectual, developmental disabilities, and traumatic brain injuries. First, for everyone in our county and region who has been significantly affected, everyone has been significantly affected by this devastating natural disaster, but our hearts go out really to those who are most affected, and particularly those who've lost loved ones. You know, we can't imagine how hard it is to be going through this crisis under those circumstances. I did want to just spend a few minutes talking about how we can best weather this difficult storm that we've been through and the aftermath of this storm now. I think for most of us, the early stage really is just one of shock and trying to cope as best we can. But now we're kind of in the next phase where we're having to deal with the effects of this ongoing trauma that we've all suffered. So some steps to consider as we go through this is to connect, to connect with others, friends, family, even if you've been displaced, make sure that you're connecting with loved ones. And for those who have displaced, if you're here, maybe connect with them, because people who've had to leave the area feel kind of disconnected from what's going on here and are wondering how people are. So, don't be afraid to connect, share, listen to others. One of the dangers or vulnerabilities is to get too isolated during a time like this. And don't be afraid to share how you're doing and how you're feeling about things. Stay informed, do things like listen to these briefings. I think this is really helpful to get information and updates from official sources. But take breaks from that too. Staying online and on social media, just looking at things over and over again, sometimes isn't the most effective way of dealing with things. Taking breaks to eat, sleep, intentionally, get back into as much of a normal routine as possible can be helpful. Maybe difficult to exercise, especially without water right now, but staying active can be helpful, particularly for those who are used to doing that. Take time to do whatever you can that reduces stress for you. For many people that may be meditating or reading, and connecting again with others, and maybe even doing a little bit of deep breathing. If you're finding that you're anxious, just make sure that you're taking deep breaths and kind of taking care of yourself in those ways. Anything to de-stress is helpful during this time. Signs to take extra care. If you're feeling overwhelming feelings of fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, worry, frustration, to the point where it's really affecting your functioning and being able to get by on a day-to-day basis, that may be a sign that it's time to reach out and get some more specific type of help. And if it's affecting your behaviors, if you're finding that you're arguing more, or having having thoughts of suicide even as you go through this, definitely time to be reaching out to for help. Changes in appetite, energy, and activity levels. I mean, all our patterns are changed with this, particularly for people without power and water still. Hard to eat normally under these circumstances. But try to do the best you can to maintain those. If you haven't, then that can be, something to reach out to help for. Difficulty concentrating and making decisions. I think my colleagues and I are talking about how, our brains just don't seem to be operating on all cylinders at all times right now. But so some of that is normal, but if it's really affecting your functioning in significant ways, then be mindful of that. Physical reactions, particularly if it's out of the ordinary for you, headaches, gastrointestinal disturbances, body pains, anything along those lines, or a worsening of any chronic health problem that you might have. That's a time to reach out to your healthcare provider. And increased use of tobacco, alcohol, other drugs or substances. This is probably not the time to be doing more of that. These things tend to increase anxiety level, these substances. So be mindful of that. If you're finding an increase or a loved one is having an increase, gently being able to bring that up and offering help is important. Some of us are perhaps at more risk or more vulnerable during these times. I think our kids in particular are they've been through so much between the pandemic, school shootings. Our kids are growing up with a lot of kind of built-in trauma right now. And now a new natural disaster, a new form of trauma that really came, somewhat out of the blue for us. They're out of school again. So that's disrupted just as they've been getting started. So being mindful of that with our kids, that they may be, they may not be in a position where they're not acting kind of in their normal ways. So being able to listen to them, be open to what they're expressing, what their fears are, and talking with them at a level that's appropriate to their developmental stage and age is important. So for young kids, we don't have to go into all the technical scientific details of the hurricane and the aftermath, but being calm, reassuring them, answering their questions honestly, but at an appropriate level is helpful for our kids at this time. For older kids, I think being straightforward and honest is the best approach generally in most situations, and answering their questions as best we can. Helping to role model resiliency can be a way for them to both cope with this trauma and be a model for how they can cope with traumas in the future. Our older folks, reaching out to them. Many are isolated, even in their day-to-day lives usually. This is a time where they may be more isolated and may have more needs. So if you have family or friends or have folks in your community that may be isolated, now is a good time to reach out and help them, even with practical matters, getting them food and water and supplies, taking them to medical appointments, which may be a really helpful thing right now, given that transportation has been so hard, would be very useful. Individuals with chronic medical conditions, very similar. And again, Mary Ann, thank you for pointing out some of the resources available. Prescriptions are available. People can take their prescription bottles to pharmacies, and for most routine refills, they'll be able to get those refilled. Individuals with mental health and substance use conditions and intellectual and developmental disabilities. Well, this is what we do at VI, and these are the people that we are really trying to make sure are safe and secure and have their needs being met. But all of us can help in this regard in helping out with this population that are vulnerable during this time. And it's remarkable, our providers are actually doing a great job at maintaining functioning under these difficult times. We're so proud of the providers that are reaching out. They're doing telehealth. They're doing some in person where that's possible. They're coming to our shelters. The Red Cross has done a tremendous job organizing mental health services in our shelters. We've had providers volunteer both locally, even though they're dealing with many of the same stresses that all of us are dealing with, And we have providers coming from around the state to volunteer too. So we really appreciate all the help in those efforts. Some specific resources that are available for people now, you can always use the new 988 line. That's available 24/7 for mental health support from a trained mental health professional. There's North Carolina's Peer Warm line. That number is 855 PEERS, PEERS-NC, to speak to a peer who's living in recovery from mental health or substance use issues. Often that's a really effective approach, particularly for those who are struggling with those types of issues. At VIA, we have our behavioral health crisis line. That number is 1-800-849-6127 for crisis assistance. And our mobile crisis teams are running and have been doing some remarkable things in the aftermath of the hurricane. First responders and volunteers can call HOPE 4NC, that's 855-587-3463 for support. And it's not lost on us, those who are providing these types of services and doing the great work that they're doing as first responders are also vulnerable to how this is affecting them. You can visit the North Carolina DHHS Hurricane Helene Recovery Resources website for current information and up-to-date information about resources. We've been really, really appreciative of the efforts of our partners at DHHS. They've been wonderful in providing resources for us and coordinating for us. And then there's also the Hurricane Helene website through Department of Public Services, DPS. And finally, I'm going to mention the same disaster distress helpline that Mary Ann mentioned. That's 1-800-985-5990. This provides crisis support services to anyone impacted by a natural disaster. It's available 24/7 in English or Spanish. Services include crisis counseling, information on recognizing distress and its effects, and referrals to local crisis centers for follow-up care. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move into questions from the media. For folks who are watching on Facebook, these questions are coming in through Zoom, and so there may be questions in the Facebook chat that we aren't seeing and able to respond to, but we will do our best. A couple things I want to touch on before we go into questions. We continue hearing questions from people about what is the appropriate PPE to wear to do any sort of cleanup in the river. Again, we can't stress this enough. Please allow our EPA to come in and do assessments on the river and the river areas before we do stream cleanups, so that they can gauge the level of it. We're also hearing rumors of 200 people trapped, 200 to 2,000 people trapped in a church in Candler. These are not true. Our 911 center did not receive any call to that effect, and we have no information to substantiate that. So that is not an accurate rumor. We are also we were hoping to provide an update on comfort stations. These are areas where folks can shower, use the bathroom, charge phones more. We weren't quite ready to have all of the details solidified for 11 a.m. today. But as soon as those are solidified, we will release that, even if it is outside of our regular 11 a.m. briefing schedule. So we will share that information as soon as we get it. Please make sure you are signed up for our code red text messaging alerts by going to buncombecounty.org/code red or text BC alert. Doesn't matter, all caps, no caps, whatever, all one word, BC alert to 99411. If you do that, we will be able to make sure you know as soon as those comfort stations come online that they are available to you. That's also how we're getting information out about things like Waste Pro schedules and garbage locations. So I encourage you to sign up for those BC alerts so that we can get that information to you, and you can get that on your phone in a text message or in an email in real time and have access to those resources as they become available. We also had questions about distribution to vulnerable populations. We are beginning that mobile distribution. A couple days ago, we posted a video on our social media of a helicopter that was picking up supplies from a donation center and actually delivering those to one of our isolated and hard to reach areas. We are continuing to do that activity. You see the helicopters flying around. Some of that is what they are doing at this juncture. Also, groups are taking care packages to folks who we know who are unable to leave their homes due to age or disability, and getting those resources to them there as well, so they do not have to attempt to leave their home. Tomorrow, we will have an update from the city of Asheville on the progress with the water restoration. We weren't able to have city of Asheville water representatives here at this meeting today. They were meeting about water restoration. So we won't be able to answer any of those specific water restoration questions at this juncture. You can send those questions to their public information officers, or we will have them included in our 11 a.m. briefing tomorrow. Do we have questions from the media?
Yeah, Lillian, Andrew Jones with Asheville Watchdog. I was wondering if you could speak at all, or somebody with the county could speak to any preparation that the health department is doing for a potential wave of infections, especially with the water outage. I mean, there's a higher risk for bacterial diseases. Is there any thought going into that right now? Is that a consideration that the health department is making?
Absolutely. Our public health officials are embedded in our emergency operations center. And so we not only have our public health director, but we also have our medical director who is embedded in that space. And so we 100% are making those preparations. I don't have further information on this about that at this time, but the public health ramifications of this crisis and this disaster are not an afterthought in terms of what our planning includes. And so these comfort stations will be a place to help assist with that. If folks are looking to make donations to those donation centers, hand sanitizer is key, as our environmental health specialist shared in previous briefings. So donations of hand sanitizer to those donation drop-offs will help us make sure that those are going out into the community while folks are still waiting on water restoration.
And will you be coordinating with the hospital to make sure that like there's preparedness for that, potential eventuality?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Question
Thanks,
Um,
Andrew.
from USA Today about delivering supplies to vulnerable people and what supplies are most needed for those persons.
Well, water, of course, is going to be a big one, not just for drinking, but so people who can use that to flush their toilets as well. So water and meals ready to eat, those are key things that are being dropped off. Other supplies like cleaning supplies, disinfectant, hand sanitizers, those are all critical to our hard to reach population so that we can help connect them to those things that will keep them safe while we work on restoration of full and regular services.
And a follow-up to that from Laura Lee, BPR. How do people who can't leave their homes request those resources or care kits or deliveries?
So people can request those. We shared with our FEMA representatives, or excuse me, our Fire Department of New York representatives, we are going through the community and doing assessments through the regions. And so we're going out through the community. And so they can make those requests when folks are in their community, checking on them through welfare checks that our sheriff's department is doing, through the United Way, and ultimately, if it's an emergency situation, calling 911, our 911 office is continuing to work day and night, fielding all of those calls. We have support from other 911 offices to make sure that we're handling that. But the best way for folks to reach out would be our call center, 828-250-6100. That is going to be your location, your one-stop location to get connected to every resource, 828-250-6100.
Hi, this is Will Atwater at North Carolina Health News. I had a question. Yesterday there was conversation about wells that needed to be tested, and I know across the county you have anywhere around 8,000 wells. So I was wondering, one, today, do you have a rough count for how many people have called in to have their well water tested? And two, have you been in conversation with FEMA to help with this well water testing across the county?
Will, I don't have a number of those calls for you, but I know that our staff is being deployed and is actively doing water testing. So that is something that we can try to include in an additional briefing, is just that number.
Uh-huh.
In terms of FEMA or EPA or anyone else, only if through that water testing process, which remember, it takes 24 hours to get those results of the water testing on wells, only if those results indicate something that we need to engage additional partners on, will they be involved in that process.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Lillian, this is Greg Parlier. Just to clarify your point on the EPA, they are on site conducting soil and water testing in Buncombe County now. And is there any timeline for when the county might say that volunteers can help clean up along the riverbanks?
They have been requested. I can't say definitively that they are at a certain point in Buncombe County, but they are on the ground in Western North Carolina. Obviously, these rivers go through many communities and many counties. They are on site in Western North Carolina. I cannot say definitively exactly which location, but once we have that information from the EPA, then of course we will be sharing that out and making sure folks know where we are with the status of any identified public health impacts.
So the EPA has not briefed the county on their status of any water testing to this point.
That has not been a briefing that I have been involved in. So let us follow up via email with that to you, Greg, and then we'll make sure to make that a talking point for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Additional questions in the chat? We do, okay.
We have one, a clarifying question. There are 58,000 customers without power. Is that just Buncombe County or all of Western North Carolina?
That number is for Buncombe County customers for Duke. Remember when we started this, our initial number was 149,000 customers without power. So that's great progress that we're seeing in that space. Any additional questions in the chat?
I see Charles Perez has a hand up, but I have not heard his question yet.
Charles, go ahead.
Hi, Lillian. First of all, I want to thank you for the many hours that you guys are all putting in. It's certainly appreciated. That said, I have a question for you about a cease and desist letter that was put out to restaurants in the area, in the county, asking them not to resume operations until they were inspected and could get re-permitted, if you will. A, are there enough inspectors out there? B, are you concerned at all it could hinder the reopening of business? And C, any repercussions for those who just open up and operate anyways?
So first part of that question, we have 15 restaurant inspectors who are currently working 7 days a week. So that ends up being about 10 inspectors per day. We have made a request for additional restaurant inspectors so that we can support our restaurants in their reopening and making sure that they're reopening safely. You know, one of the earlier questions that came in was around public health and potential public health impacts. We want to make sure that when our restaurants reopen, that they are doing so safely so that our residents and folks who are looking for that warm meal are going to be able to be ensured that they have followed all those safety precautions in that space. Ramifications, certainly, if a restaurant receives a cease and desist letter, please call us. Let us help you work through that as quickly as possible. We want you open too. We want our restaurants to be able to reopen. We just need our restaurants to be able to reopen safely. We still have a boil water advisory. And so we just need to make sure that everyone is following the necessary precautions so that we can all be safe as a community and continue to grow, rebuild, and be healthy.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Charles. Anything
Right.
else in the chat?
Lillian, this is Greg Parlier again. Following up on your numbers from Duke, do you have any numbers on internet access countywide for residents from Charter, AT&T, or any other partners?
We do not. We do not. And we know that that is a pressing issue for folks, especially as their power starts to come back on. You know, fiber was significantly impacted similarly to the ways that our water lines were impacted. And so we're trying to work to get an update on that, and we'll follow up with that. But we know that that's a big thing.
Thanks.
Hey Lillian, this is Will again. A question about burning, about debris. I know a few days ago, I think you guys gave guidelines for if people want it to burn. But given that there's so much debris across the region, are you concerned at all with air quality issues if a lot of people start to burn?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to burning, if it grows, it goes. So you can burn things that grow. If it is not something that naturally grows in our community, please do not burn that. We have been putting out a request for help for employment for our debris contractor. We will be going through and collecting debris in the community. We know you want that debris out. We want it out too. Please do not burn that, because burning anything that is not naturally occurring, which includes treated and painted wood, that will contribute to our air quality in Buncombe County.
Okay, thanks.
As a reminder, please burn those 15 feet away from structures and only in 3-foot piles.
Do you have any kind of sense of how much debris you're looking at in your area?
We don't have a sense of the amount. Obviously, that varies based on the region. The western part of the county is more in the trees and tree limbs. The eastern part of the county, that's where we have a lot more of structural debris. And so this debris hauler, who we will be bringing in, will be making those collections in those public right-of-ways. And I want to make sure folks know debris collection that happens, when it happens, there will be no cost to residents for that debris collection. There is a cost for commercial haulers who are bringing it to the landfill. So another reason to ensure that our debris haulers are picking that up for you is because there will be no cost to residents.
Hey, it's Laura from BPR.
Avril wants to join in on the answer to that question. Hold on, Laura.
Hey, Will, this is Avril. Just real quickly on debris cleanup, we will be coming through every neighborhood, every secondary road. Within another week, we plan to start that. The debris contractor has been here. He has been cutting and clearing roads alongside DOT to make sure our roads are clear. Now the debris cleanup will happen. What I want residents to know is that we would make sure we announce before they come through the neighborhoods, because the residents they will have to pull the debris to the public right away, so that we cannot go into their backyards and pick that up. So if they're already thinking about cutting these trees up or getting them in a manageable load, so they can pull that to the curbs and the gutters. So that's what we want, it on the curb or the public right away. But we would announce that when we're coming through specific neighborhoods, because we do not want that debris to come back and block roadways. So our plan would be, give us another couple of days and we will start mentioning when that would happen and when residents can start pulling that debris to the roadside.
And that's another reason to make sure you're signed up for our Code Red text alerts so that we can get that text to you, let you know when they're coming to your neighborhood. I think Laura had a question.
Yeah, thank you. Forgive me if you already addressed this, but I don't think we heard about the oxygen. There was a listing yesterday of places where people could get oxygen refills. We understand some of those had corrections. Just wondering if there's any update on oxygen tanks.
Yep, those will be updated or are updated at buncombeready.org. I'm looking at a step. We're still confirming some of that. There were some changes, and like the rest of this, as we respond to this disaster, things are so fluid and they change so frequently. So we'll make sure that those are updated on buncombeready.org by 12:30 p.m. today. I think we have time for one more question.
I have a follow-up to Charles's question. This is Greg again at Mount Express about the restaurants. Is there anything specific, and forgive me if this was covered in a previous briefing, but when the health department is reviewing restaurants and clearing them to reopen, is there any specific notice that the public should look out for to be sure that the health department has reviewed it? And are restaurants permitted to give away food prior to the health department review? Just wanted to kind of clarify the situation on the ground here.
I'm hearing they can give it away for free. And so if they are reopening, and they should be permitted to reopen, there won't be a public acknowledgement that I am aware of. But I'll make sure that if what I'm saying to you is untrue, that I make that clarification. But there will not be public notification that they have met all of the compliance with the emergency operations plan. However, if they are operating and they haven't been cleared, then our inspectors will take remediation efforts with those individual restaurants to help make sure what y'all are doing to help get that information out. We know we have new restaurants opening every day in this area. And some of those restaurant owners and operators may not be fully engaged on this. So just making sure they're working with their health department partners on that reopening.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Anything else on your end, Angelica, looking at staff? All right. Thank you very much. We will be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. We will have our city partners with us tomorrow to provide that water update that we know folks are looking to get more information on. We appreciate you tuning in with us. We know that there's a lot of information coming out in these community briefings, but we will continue to try to make sure that they are as resourceful as possible for folks who, we know there's still a lot of people who are sitting in their cars listening. So thank you for joining us, and stay strong, Buncombe.